Hello everyone, and welcome to this live presentation entitled Marketing Personalization, Leveraging Conversation Analytics. My name is Eric Murphy, and I will be your host for today's session. I'd like to introduce today's presenters. Sean Leonard, CEO of ActiveDEMAND. Sean is dedicated in helping businesses with advanced marketing strategies, marketing automation technology, sales and marketing expertise that's simple, effective, and affordable. As an entrepreneur, Sean has more than 25 years of successful experience launching, owning, operating, and growing businesses. And also with us today is Emily Blazinski. As Director of Marketing for VoiceBase, an API-based and enterprise-grade speech analytics platform, Emily has developed unique and successful marketing strategies to help the needs of emerging industry leaders. Emily has a keen grasp of strategies to elevate awareness of the multiple ways speech technology can be applied to improve business process automation. Welcome everyone again, and I'll hand things over to Sean and Emily.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Eric, and thank you all for taking the time to meet with us today. I think it's a very exciting topic, and I'm happy to share some of the findings we have in this space. So today's presentation, it's really going to look at some of the problems we're hoping to solve with personalization and journey automation, and I'm going to as well share some examples in how we're using technology to drive conversions, and specifically how we're using conversation analytics to as well aid in journey automation. Of course, two of us on the phone here are presenting our vendors, and we're going to keep the pitches on products low and hopefully the content high. So if you bear with us throughout this presentation, hopefully you'll get some good ideas on how you can leverage technology to accelerate your buyer journeys. So I think all of us on the phone today, doesn't matter what type of business you're in, and I think there's a lot of marketing agencies on the phone today. Let's face it, marketing is not as easy as it should be. We're faced with challenges, and the reality is most folks are facing the same challenges we are, but they're hiring agencies and or in-house marketers to try to address some of the challenges that I'm going to share with you today. And these aren't all the challenges, but I think I've got a set of challenges that I think that personalization addresses very nicely. So the first one, and myself, I've been marketing for many years, and it was even before there was digital marketing. And I think that the big change for some of us older people is that we're used to dealing with people one-on-one and or companies, and there's a real personal connection, etc. But with digital marketing, if the first engagement with a business is a website, let's face it, nobody, the position we're starting with digital marketing is a position of lack of trust, right? Nobody, when they come to a website for the first time, thinks, wow, these guys, everything they're saying, this is absolutely true, and where do I sign up? It's a case, it's always, with digital, it's a case that the starting position is always of lack of trust, and it's really up to us as marketers to build this trust. And another challenge, and this is, I think, happening more, is that really the attention span of the buyers. Let's face it, they got the attention span of a gnat, and it's rapidly decreasing. And this type of thing can be measured, especially when they're doing online investigations, trying to decide, make a buying decision, what have you. It's measured in dwell time, and I know Google says that if your visitors are spending less than 2 minutes consuming your content, it's a case that it's not good enough. And something to reflect on right now, if you haven't been measuring this, is think about what is the measurement today for your dwell time on your clients' websites if you're an agency, or if it's your own website that if you're marketing for yourself. Other things, measurements that we're seeing is that the visit depth, which is obviously a measurement of how much of the website or content that they're consuming. It's typically low. I know for myself, I look at we're constantly facing this battle as a marketing organization ourselves, and really we're trying to get engagement with good content, etc. And that's a common strategy with content. But let's face it, even if you're been doing digital marketing for many clients for many years, nobody's conversion rates are where they need to be. I think this is a challenge we're all facing. And this is another one. This is definitely for the longer sales cycles, is that we're finding that the journeys are actually becoming a bit longer. And why? Is that there's a lot of data out there, a lot of information out there. Like it used to be the case that before digital marketing, let's say we're going down to, buy some consumable good, we would just walk into the store and make a decision within a few minutes. But now, everybody wants to have the best and want to spend the least amount of money to get the best. So they will end up investigating and spending time bouncing around from website to website. And I think that quite often the visitors will end up spending more, going to a website more than once. And I think one of the one of the tragedies is that if you're not doing your job correctly and you get the buyer to start from the same place again the next time they come, then quite often the visitor won't even know they're visiting that vendor site the second time, right? Another one is trade-offs, and let's face it, there's unlimited wants, limited resources. We have to make choices. And quite often, especially if we think about marketing for a business, there's one of the trade-offs we're faced with is buyer profiles. And we say, oh, well, there's only one customer. You've got to optimize for one customer profile and really get the traction. But really, let's face it, I know for my business, there's several customer or buyer profiles that we're targeting. And the end of the day is that the traditional approaches are, if we're using traditional approaches, it's about trade-offs. Right? It's a case that, even when we're doing paid advertising, there's a lot of different ads and maybe there isn't as many landing pages. Or if we're doing SEO, we're thinking about one phrase per page. So again, is that, we're faced with this situation where we either, go deep on one buyer profile and alienate the rest, or we go shallow and then really fight for the conversion, trying to get to the person to the right area of the website, what have you, that speaks in that profile's language and the conversation resonates with them. So again, it's about trade-offs, and I think we're all faced with this as marketers today. So, and really, I think that what I'm going to introduce here, and I'm sure many of you are thinking about this, hence you're on this presentation, is the thinking of journey automation or journey personalization. And I know personalization seems to be a buzzword, but it's more than a buzzword. It is actually showing that the personalization is delivering results. And clearly the benefit to the marketer is, if we can reduce friction and get people to, convert quicker, then there's clearly a benefit to us. But there's a great benefit to the client, or I should say the prospect as well. If we can aid them and give them the tools necessary to make a buying decision a lot quicker, then let's face it, they're going to be a lot happier and they're going to, again, make the decision much quicker. So what is journey automation? And well, I define it as the use of data, dynamic or contextual content, and automation to deliver a personalized experience for the buyer for the purposes of shortening the required engagement time for a purchasing decision. So really what the idea here is that we want to give the buyer the right information at the right time and help them, and not just at the right time, but where they are in the buyer journey, and help them, with recommendations, etc., so that they are making decisions much quicker. So again, it's a personalized experience when they arrive on a digital asset, and we ensure that when they come back, if it is a longer buyer journey, that we don't make the mistake of getting them to start at square one. So it's really trying to automate the buyer journey is the idea here. So there's lots of different approaches for personalization, and I know if I asked the question today at the beginning of this presentation, said how many of you are using personalization? You know, the answer would probably be we're doing a lot of it today, and the reason being is that you know, we're using, for example, dynamic fields in our emails, right? We're personalizing our emails, saying, you know, Fred, have you noticed we've got this special offer today, right? So yes, everyone's doing personalization. I think emails probably one of the easiest ones to think of. But if you think about the buyer journey, a lot of the personalization effort today is typically focused low at the very bottom of the funnel once we know who the person is, right? But if we think about it, the funnel is funnel shaped for a reason. There's a lot of people at the top, and there's hardly anybody at the bottom. So what I'm going to focus this presentation on is more of the higher funnel activities and trying to focus on turning the anonymous visitor into a known visitor so we can be engaged in a conversation that's going on without us at the time. So really that means we're going to be focusing on personalization, personalizing the experience for web assets. And again, there's lots of other areas we can do personalization, print advertising, etc. But the focus of this presentation is going to be looking at personalizing the web assets. And what I mean by web assets are, you know, the websites, the landing pages, this type of stuff. So if we think about a web page, what are the areas, the tools available, or areas or opportunities rather for personalization? And there's the first type is really what I call inline personalization. So it's really when the viewer sees the landing page, sees a website, is that the website itself is dynamically adapting based on the stage of the journey, the history we've collected on the prospect, etc. So it's really inline. It's seamless. You really don't know which pieces are being personalized and which ones are not because it's ingrained right in the website itself. And then there's the overlays. And a subscriber bar is a good opportunity, and typically people are wasting it with, hey, you know, sign me up for something. But it's really an area of the screen where we can inject personalized content or contextual content that helps with the buyer journey. Then there's a push-down bar. This is another opportunity as well, where we put some type of an overlay, where we're mentioning something that is beneficial to the prospect. And again, it's an area of the screen that we can attack, or I should say, leverage rather, to help with help along the buyer journey. And tooltips, and these are little helpers that sort of pop up. They're not in the person's way. They're sort of telling people about maybe a little bit more information to help them with what they're consuming right now, or some testimonials or what have you. But it's an animated thing that pops up and sort of shows the person, attracts their attention to the specific message. So again, this is an area or an opportunity for personalization. And finally, I think this is the area where most people are a little bit hesitant, but I think if it's used properly, it actually is beneficial, right? And that's the full blocking pop-up, right? And this is where, you know, an exit attempt happens. We're going to give them one more opportunity. But if it's a case that it is truly, you know, offering value, then again, it's personalized. I think there's an opportunity to increase conversions, et cetera. And I know ourselves, we've looked at some of our blog posts that still get tons of traction. We've written them many, probably like 3 years ago, and we're getting tons of traffic, but the bounce rate is really high. They read the blog post and then they bounce. We found with full swipe contextual content, it's a case we're able to pull some of those people back in. So there is a place for it, and I think it's also something that should be considered as a personalization tool. Now, I think what we got to do is use the data, right? And it's not just about popping something up. It's and assuming that it's going to happen. It's we have, if we're using web tracking and we're using great, there's lots of data available to us today, right? So whether it's where the person is geographically, how they got to the website, whether it was a keyword search or an ad group, it tells you something about the prospect. Maybe the previous visits that they had, right? Which links they clicked in emails, how much time they look at specific pages, or, you know, it's a case that which emails they liked, what time of day they engaged with stuff, etc. Like, there's a ton of data that we can collect and leverage for the personalization. And something that I'm going to be introducing today with Emily is the how to leverage phone conversations to actually accelerate the buyer journey. So I'm going to walk through a couple of examples of how we're using as a company personalization, and hopefully it'll show you how some of the pieces fit together. And again, it isn't just a, hopefully you're not feeling this is going to be a product pitch. I'm just showing you how we use technology. But speaking of that, there is a short product pitch, and I'll try to keep it to a minimum. So really, the problem that our technology solves is this, is that I know a lot of people out there are using a lot of different tools to do marketing. So there's, you know, there's survey tools, web tools, social tools, call tracking tools, all of these different things. And I know a lot of the folks on the call today are agencies, and if you've got 10 tools, 30 clients, you're writing password software. Not a huge problem, but it's a case that it is a bit of a challenge. And as well, trying to understand what's working and what's not. If you're bouncing around from tools, it makes it very difficult. So really what ActiveDEMAND is and this is the interesting piece of it, it is a integrated marketing platform designed for the multi-client marketer. That's a multiple. So it's people who have more than one client. We have a unique platform that pulls together all of the digital tools in a single platform. And you'll see it isn't just for convenience. They actually work together to accelerate the buyer journey. So the pieces that I'm going to be talking about today is the dynamic content we provide inline, as well as overlays, and of course the fully dynamic emails and calls and SMSs and direct messages and this type of stuff. But we also have automation, landing pages, dashboards, etc., and of course call tracking. So that's it. I'm done with the product pitch. Now I'm going to get back to the topic of really how we use tools to accelerate the buyer journey with personalization. So the first example is what I call referring source optimization. And what we did as a company is we went and looked at all of the referring traffic that we have as a company coming to our website. And we looked at the ones that sort of have, we think, a story that we could tell, and the story, of course, having a, you know, an ending where somebody is buying from us. And we tried to build a story that aligns with that specific journey. So, for example, here, what I'll show you is you know, we integrate with third-party products, and one of the products we integrate with are CRMs. Now, one of the CRMs we integrate with is Pipedrive, and I'm not here to sell Pipedrive because this is the purpose of this story is to show you how we accelerate the buyer journey. So if you imagine somebody who buys this CRM, which is Pipedrive, they'll be thinking, oh, I need to get leads into the CRM. So they'll go to the integration section and they'll find, you know, a list of people, including us. So they'll click on this link that goes from Pipedrive's website, goes to our website. And we think as an organization that this prospect is trying to answer two questions. The first question is, what does ActiveDEMAND do? The second question is, how well does it integrate with Pipedrive, right? So clearly our landing page is going to talk about this. But if we think about it, this person is going to probably click around and start looking at our website. And what they'll find is now our entire website changes, right? So it's a case we're going to be talking explicitly about Pipedrive, clearly, and we're going to inject Pipedrive inline, saying that, you know, the story about what ActiveDEMAND does, and of course that it integrates with Pipedrive. And as well, we're going to start overlaying pop-ups and tooltips and this type of stuff to, again, talk about the Pipedrive engagement. And of course, if we have the anonymity removed, we're actually going to inject the person's name. And the landing page, if they do go sign up for a trial or something like that, it's a case that you'll see, again, we're injecting inline the story of Pipedrive. And of course, it's a case, this landing page wasn't built just for Pipedrive. It's built for a whole bunch of different buyer journeys, but it's dynamically adapting to the session of somebody who's expressed interest in Pipedrive. And of course, you know, the CEO of Pipedrive is going to pop up contextually saying, "Oh, great, you know, this works together." So clearly, if we've done our job, it's a case that we've leveraged the data that we've collected off the prospect, and every time they come back to our website, they're going to keep seeing the story about how well we integrate with Pipedrive. And really, the result of this was, number one, is that it was a reduction of effort for us because we're using dynamic content instead of doing 10 landing pages for each profile. A lot of the landing pages, the content's similar, but we're just injecting a piece of it, which is going to talk to that specific buyer. And what we saw is a significant lift, 200% lift in the journeys that we were actually customizing the content for. So significant. It's work, and it's a case that we've seen very good results as in lift from a conversion perspective. The next example I'm going to show you is buyer profile segmentation, and we have several buyer profiles that we're targeting for. And so again, what we did is we looked at our buyer profiles, we identified them, we looked at their characteristics, etc., and we decided to optimize for two specific profiles. Profile 1 was an agency. Profile 2 is somebody who uses the software themselves for their own company. And then we built out and contextualized the content on the website, etc., based on, so we would speak to these people directly. So, for example, we'll do self-selection, but quite often we're driving people through our ads, etc., that will bring them to the website, and they'll already be categorized. But if it's a case that they're not categorized, then, you know, basically we'll have a link. Do you market for one client or multiple clients? And if they click one of these links, clearly we have information that we can leverage. Now, all of the hero banners will change, and it'll talk about, for example, to this end user, you know, I want more business, this type of stuff. So we're speaking in their terms. And if it's an agency, it's a case that we're going to be speaking about, of course, I need retainers, I need more retainer clients, I need to optimize my processes, etc. I need to reduce my churn rate. These are things that most agencies are losing sleep over, and if we can talk to these people directly, again, the thinking being is that we'll increase our engagement time. And the result is it actually happened, right? It's a case that our 300% increase in page depth and a 400% lift in session length as a result of, you know, once we compare it to the people that we personalized for versus that same set of people that in the past where we weren't personalizing for. So it was a significant lift in engagement. And the final example I'm going to give you here is really AdWord optimization. So, you know, we have several competitors just like everybody out there, and what we did is we looked at specific keyword groups for our competitors, and we targeted keyword searches for those competitors, and then we had adapted our content based on what was searched. So, for example, if, you know, one of our competitors is clearly landing page companies. So there's lots of landing page companies out there. So we would target searches for example, unbounce. So if somebody searches for unbounce alternatives or any of the other vendors that do landing pages, of course our ad would show up thanks to our friends at Google. Now if somebody clicks this page, this link, and it comes back to a landing page that is absolutely focused on not just with a couple of words, the entire page changes to talk about our very specific compete strategy with unbounce. We knew that they searched unbounce, and we took that data and dynamically adapted the session to the keyword searches. And interestingly enough, we've done split testing with our appointment scheduling, and it's a case that for the longer engagements, people tend to want to engage with an appointment rather than do a trial or a quote request. So we've again, we're leveraging several things on the go here. And if they search for some other competitor, again, this exact page would dynamically adapt to talk about the compete strategy with the different vendor that they searched for. And the reality is we got significant lift compared to the way our old static pages. And the benefit from us operationally is that instead of managing all these different landing pages for these different campaigns, is that we could just do one specific page with the static content and then swap out the specific elements that were really aligned with the keyword searches. So now I'm going to switch things over, and I'm going to talk about conversation analytics and how we leverage this data and how it plays in the journey automation. So really, what conversation analytics does is it starts with call tracking. So again, this is talking about we're going to leverage the call to dynamically adapt our content and personalize the journey. So of course, it starts with call tracking, and most call tracking systems answer the question of what made the phone ring, right? So that's the first step. And then next piece is, of course, doing advanced analysis on the conversation. And I'll be handing things over to Emily in just a bit. And the technology we use is from a company called VoiceSpace. And Emily's going to talk at length about the technology itself. So we're doing conversation analysis. And then we combine this with the dynamic content engine. And really what we end up with is something that ActiveDEMAND calls call forensics, where we're, again, leveraging this conversation to do journey automation. So with that, I'm just going to hand things over to Emily, and she's going to talk about the technology that we use to do the conversation analysis.
Thanks, Sean. Great to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Blazensky with VoiceSpace, and we're a cloud-based speech analytics platform. And what that means is we surface actionable insights based on what was said. And so we believe the most important part of any call is what was spoken. And for a long time, that information has been falling on the floor. It was hard to analyze, hard to get accurate, and hard to do on a scalable, cost-effective platform. So you can go to the next slide. Everything we do begins with a machine transcription. And you might be asking, transcription, how does that really fit into the marketing personalization? It doesn't. Transcription, we like to say, is a means to an end. Those looking for a transcript are really looking to solve a problem that they have. Marketing is wondering, how did my campaigns do? Did they drive the right leads to my phone line? Sales is wondering, what are customers thinking and feeling and wanting more so that we can, pitch the right products to them. And our, tech and development departments are wondering, how are things working? Is the same bug coming up a lot? What are the trends going on so that we know how to handle those? And that's what VoiceSpace derives from spoken content. So just like Sean showed, how you can use online customer interactions to personalize websites and know more about what your customers are looking for, what products they're interested in. VoiceSpace is the magic behind the call forensics product that allows you to do that based on what customers said on your phone line. So on top of transcription, like I said, that's a means to an end. We offer speech analytics where we actually extract keywords and phrases and topics out of your call recordings. And that can be keywords that VoiceSpace deems important through our own special technical algorithms, like words like important or manager, supervisor, I'm interested in, my favorite, I didn't like. Or they can be words that the customer has told us, and ActiveDEMAND says, hey, we want to make sure if the word pipe drive is mentioned or any of these other integrations, you tell us. Or if there were any opinion statements or competitor names or other things you want to know about how your customers are interacting on the phone. And then our third deeper product, Predictive Insight, is a way that we can spot complex events. So you can say, was an appointment made on the phone? Is this customer about to cancel? Is my customer upset? Did the agent act appropriately? Did the script get followed? And all those things are done through machine learning and big data and training processes where they're customized per customer on your own call recordings, so that an appointment made for one enterprise or small business is going to sound different than the other. So they're made on custom recordings. So we can go to the next slide, Sean. So you might be thinking, okay, that sounds great, but how does this really work? It sounds complicated. How do you get my recordings? And that's the beauty of being an API or a cloud-based interface, where We ingest everything in the cloud. So ActiveDEMAND and VoiceBase have a relationship where they pass us the call recordings, we analyze them, and the first thing we do on our side is we split up the recordings into 1-minute chunks. So if we get a 30-minute phone call, we're actually going to process that in 30 1-minute chunks on 30 different servers and do it all at the same time. We call it parallel processing. So there's no barrier based on the length of recording for how long it's going to take us to deliver the results back to you. That's one of the elements of our process that allows it to be delivered really quickly, because we know that you want that information as soon as possible so that you can act on it. Some of the information that gets delivered are, transcripts, keywords, topics, those prediction results I talked about. But the most important element I want to touch on here is no matter how accurate any speech engine is, if it can't spot words that aren't in the dictionary, like Blazinski, my last name, or Xfinity if you're Comcast or a competitor, or ActiveDEMAND and VoiceBase, it doesn't even know those words to spot. So the most important terms sometimes get missed. So VoiceBase has introduced a feature called custom vocabulary to solve this problem, because if you're missing the most important words that are spoken on your phone calls, then the accuracy doesn't really matter for everything else. And we can jump to the next slide. So custom vocabulary is a way that companies like ActiveDEMAND and their customers can add pronouns and acronyms and things that might not get spotted without you telling us on the fly to every request. So you can add all the terms for your specific business, people's names, or industry lexicon for the automotive industry or real estate, things that you want to make sure are spoken. So this is just a quick example that you can blow up that shows you on the left. Here's an example where the transcript did not have custom vocabulary mentioned. So some of the words highlighted, you'll see specifically the hip hop appears to be, that's clearly incorrect. Some power, fourth quarter, those things just aren't formatted the correct way. So we injected the list of custom vocabulary for this company, which was SunPower, and the people's names that were mentioned, the acronyms, and everything else like Q1 formatted correctly so that when you search it, it actually comes up with the right answers. And you'll see in the highlighted green text on the right that it's very powerful. And you can imagine if you're not spotting your own company's name, you're not going to get a lot of the great insights. So this is one of the features that we've developed to help solve that problem. And we can jump to the next slide. So keyword spotting and topic generation, which is the real bread and butter of our solution with ActiveDEMAND, is powerful in a couple ways. But a lot of the questions we get from customers or our customers' customers when they first try out the solution is, this is great, but what should I look for? What keywords or topics can help me automate business processes and solve my problem? So one of the powerful examples that we give a lot, and we've seen some really unique things done with other customers, is looking for opinion statements. Things like, I like, I hate, I want, I need, my favorite, frustrated, things like that, in conjunction with competitor names or product and feature names of your own company, so that you can scan many recordings on a massive scale and quickly get a sense of, are there positive or negative opinion statements clustered around competitor names? Are there positive or negative opinion statements clustered around my product or features? So that you really get a sense how your customers are reacting and what they're looking for from you on the phone line, which is really powerful. And then we can jump to the next slide. I want to get into a little bit our example with ActiveDEMAND and the really cool stuff we've been working on with them, and that's based on actionable intelligence. You want to do something with this rich information that you're getting from your phone line, whether that be analyzing the voice of your customer so that you're getting to know them better, you're creating better customer profiles, or you want to auto-populate CRM records so that you get a richer customer history and you can handle future calls or future interactions better. or you want to monitor agents and make sure they're acting appropriately, offering the right products, they aren't veering from script, you're getting them trained in the ways that they need to. And then the one where ActiveDEMAND has hit the sweet spot is the journey personalization. So you can see before, similar to how Sean showed, you can personalize the web content based on the links they've clicked on, the websites they've gone to, and other things they've shown interest on online. You can now use their offline interactions on the phone to further personalize the website so that when they go visit your website after they just called to ask about Pipedrive and to see if you have that integration, the first thing they're going to see, instead of just your regular web page and having to find the answer themselves, they're going to be offered more information on that exact thing that they were asking about on the phone. So they're going to feel a real seamless, personalized experience, both online and off, in their whole multi-channel experience.
Excellent.
Now
well,
I'll hand it back to Sean to go into a little more detail.
Very good, Emily. Thank you very much for that. And yes, it's a very powerful engine, and it's a very powerful combination. Really, the conversation analytics, it's, yes, there's call scoring, call summaries are very, very wonderful things. You can see in the background there where ActiveDEMAND summarizes a lot of the calls in its dashboard widgets, and of course does what a call tracking platform should, is gives you the attribution. But really what I'm here to talk about is again, the journey personalization and journey automation, leveraging the call. So it's really, the call is the hottest lead. You know, if you're not doing call tracking to begin with, you need to, because again, it's a significant attribution gap. But really understanding what made the phone ring is one piece, but understanding what's said on the call and using it to drive dynamic content, it's a situation where it's actually 1 + 1 + 1 is actually 5 or more, instead of just a sum of some simple parts. So I'm going to just revisit that last example with the AdWords. And really, it's the same scenario, again, where let's say somebody searches for unbounced alternatives, and they see the ActiveDEMAND ad. And if they click on the ad and they see up at the top a number, and they decide to call instead of filling out the form. And then if they're on the call with the salesperson, then they say, oh, wow, this is great. I love your landing page solution and dynamic content. But do you guys integrate with Pipedrive, right? And just in the salesperson, he does nothing. I mean, he's going to follow up with the prospect, et cetera. But the next time the person goes to the website, now the website is talking about landing pages and, of course, talking about Pipedrive. Because, again, we've taken the conversation data and injected it into the inline content and the pop-ups, et cetera. So really, hopefully I've demonstrated or shown you a few things about how we can leverage the right contextual data to accelerate the buyer journey. And I'm just going to give you a couple of best practices to think about while you're going through this process yourself. And really, it's about contextualization, contextualizing your message, and not just in emails. Think about it higher funnel as well. Because let's face it, the highest spend in marketing is taking the anonymous, or I should say the large group of population of people who are never going to be interested or are interested in, sorting them out, getting them to a web asset, and converting them to a known visitor. And so think about it in the higher funnel stages is the point. Rationalize, really try to understand what your clients are going through, what's taking up their time while they're trying to make a buyer decision. And don't forget, the emotional content. You know, you have to get the robot out of the room, and you have to try to appeal to your prospects, emotions, if you will. And again, like I said, think about going high funnel with the anonymous visitor, and think about as well the tool set. And you've got to always focus on what's in it for me, which is the client. Think about what's in it for the prospect. So just to wrap things up, I think the challenges that I mentioned at the beginning we're all faced with is building trust, the short attention span of our prospects, the lengthening of the buyer journeys because of the accessibility of content, and the many of the trade-offs that we're faced with as marketers. And really, I think the answer to solve many of these trade-offs is really journey automation, to get higher engagement and, of course, higher conversions. And And let's not forget, the hottest lead is the call, and it's really where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. We're now talking to everything. A lot of things are assumptions, but when you're on the phone, it's reality. So it's a case, leverage that reality to drive the content. And again, when that prospect gets off the call, make sure that the emails, the direct social media posts, and the website content is taking the data that we've collected on that prospect and helping them with to make a buyer decision. So that's pretty much it for the presentation. I want to thank you all for taking the time to chat with us today.